Welcome in to Channel BSR's post-game live. We're here on Cinco de Mayo to talk about the Orioles and the Mets. A 3-2 win for the Mets. It's 1969 all over again. Sadness for the Baltimore Orioles. And what better to have on the post-game show? With me tonight is Gary Mack of Mets Musings and other fine podcasts that you should make sure that you're following on Baseball Talk Radio and baseballpodcast.net. Gary, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here.
Now, I have to be honest with you, I'm not so happy with you or your Mets this evening. The game did not go as it was supposed to. I don't know who didn't get the memo, but the Orioles' bats didn't show up, and the Mets did for too long. Is this a regular occurrence for you guys, or was this an aberration for you?
Well, we started out, we won 10 in a row at home, had an 11-game winning streak, and then hit the skids. But they have been playing the last 10 games. They were 3-7 going into this game, and same problem. Bats had disappeared. Looked like they were swinging wet newspapers. Not to quote Matt Scherzer, but so this was a big breakout. They hadn't scored a run in 21 innings, and scoring 3 in 1 inning is like woohoo! A big party time here. Smiles all around, and they needed really to get back on track, and unfortunately had to come against your Orioles, but that's the way it goes sometimes.
Your sweet talk will get you nowhere with me, Gary. I'm on to you. Let's go ahead, just for tradition's sake, and go through the box score. I'm going to start with pitching for the Orioles. Bud Norris got toasted on Twitter during that 4th inning. But if you look at his line, it's really not quite as bad. 7 hits over 7 innings. He was quite hittable tonight. But what he did is he limited the walks, gave up just the 1, and he spread out those earned runs. Just the 3 earned runs in that 4th inning, and was spotless for the rest. Now, even giving up those 3 runs, Bud Norris has lowered his ERA. Yes, he's lowered his ERA to 9.75, which is, only twice the national average. Brian Mattis also pitched an inning, and that's your 8 for the good guys. Let's go over to the Mets. Bartolo Colon, and I'm going to want to talk about him in a little bit. Bartolo Colon went 7.2 innings, giving up 6 hits and just the 1 earned runs. He struck out 9 batters. The Mets also trotted out there Carlos Torres for a third of an inning, and Familia closed it out, getting the save with 1 complete inning. Going through the offensive side of the box score, for the Orioles, lots of hits up in the lineup. Machado, Paredes, Jones, each with 1. Davis with 2, including that opposite field home run. Travis Snyder, and then Ofers for everybody else. Going down on the Mets, just about everybody joined the hit parade except for the pitcher spot, Bartolo Colon. I can't believe it. Can't believe an athlete like that guy wouldn't have had a hit. And the second baseman, Herrera. Oh, as well as center fielder, Juan Lagares. So, night to say the least. But again, Gary, Orioles came up short, so we're going to give it to you to start this off. What was your highlight from this game?
Well, I mean, it's got to be Bartolo Colon grounding out in the 7th inning. He actually made contact with the baseball. That's got to be the highlight of the game. People they stop to watch Bartolo Colon hit, and it's become a fad here in New York. But in all seriousness, the 4th inning, when the Mets were able finally to get some hits, put some runs together, and what they were doing early in the year, keep the line moving. They're not hitting home runs, but they're keeping the line moving and getting the runs in, and that was probably the highlight for me.
For me, I originally had penciled in Manny Machado's home run, but I'm going to scratch that out, and I'm going to say the Chris Davis home run was the highlight for me for a couple of reasons. First, watching Chris Davis hit home runs is majestic, and that was a shot. As soon as it left the bat, you knew it was gone. Secondly, Chris Davis is a likable guy that I really want him to succeed personally, as well as I do him to carry the Orioles to victory. It's nice to see him get something in return for his efforts. He struck out earlier in the game twice, and it was looking like one of those games where he would just be lost at the plate. So it was really good to see Chris Davis put something positive together. And, too little too late, but it made it interesting in the ninth, and That's better than not, right?
That's right. Got to be thankful for small things
That's
sometimes.
right, absolutely. And occasionally, following Orioles baseball is only small things that you can be thankful for. But we've done the highlights. Let's go to the lowlights. What did you have in store for your Mets as far as lowlights are concerned?
It's really tough because they played a pretty good game. They've been struggling defensively and played pretty tightly. I guess the continuous non hitting of young Dilson Herrera, who was brought up, is probably a low light. The kid was up last year. He kind of did this when he first came up last year, and then began to hit a little bit towards the end of the season. He's 20, 21 years old. I mean, when I say kid, he is a kid, and but he's playing solid defense. He's not letting it bother him, and they really needed that with Murphy and Flores up the middle. It's just not a good combination. So at least they give him a little tighter defense. And he hit the ball well. The last time was robbed by Adam Jones, who, you guys are used to seeing that on a daily basis. So it's probably routine. So that's probably the low light for me that he went 0 for whatever. I think 4.
Yeah, it was 0 for 3. Now, do you think that the bat will come around? Do you think that he'll be able to hit it at this level, or is that something that's yet to be seen?
I think he will be able to hit at this level. I don't know if this. He's up because of the injury to David Wright. They shifted Murphy over to third, and to tighten up the defense at second, they brought up Herrera. Originally, they weren't going to, and then they decided to do that. Interestingly enough, when they moved Murphy to third, that was supposedly the weekend that Brian Sabian of San Francisco came to scout the Nationals and the Mets, and they're looking to get a long-term third base replacement and perhaps a starting pitcher. So, but that aside, I think he can hit. He was hitting 376 in Vegas, which is a hitters league, the Pacific Coast League. But
Sure.
You still got to be able to hit some. If you're hitting 376, you probably could hit 275 up here. So I think he'll be able to hit. I just think right now it's he may be pressing a little bit. And another thing, they bring up these guys, and I think a lot of teams do this, and then they bat them at the end of the lineup. And I think sometimes you got to move these guys higher up so they get a little protected in the batting order and get them hitting, and then maybe you can slowly drop them down a little bit to at least get their feet wet higher up in the order where they're protected. But I think he'll be able to hit. He may have to go back down again when Wright gets healthy. Not sure about that, what they're going to do at that point, unless a trade is made. But
Well,
he
I hope for your sake that he does start hitting, but I'd like him to hold off another game if you don't mind.
okay.
He's welcome. He's welcome to hit as soon as we leave Citi Field. From the Orioles side, for a low light, I wrote down all of the strikeouts. All of the strikeouts. Caleb Joseph had a hat trick. Replacing Matt Wieters here as a regular starting catcher. He's been surprisingly very solid offensively, and you hate to see him go through something like that. Every batter, with the exception of, let's see, Everth Cabrera, had a strikeout tonight. Everybody except for Everth Cabrera and the American League pitcher Bud Norris had a strikeout tonight. Manny Machado and Chris Davis get a pass, even though Chris Davis had 2 because they actually provided something else offensively. But it was pretty ugly. Bartolo Colon seemed like he was in control, and the Orioles hitters were not showing the patience and the plate discipline that they've been showing lately. And Gary, I know you don't watch them day in and day out, but it's been a period where we've been watching guys that are absolute hackers and have been absolute hackers their entire career in Adam Jones and Manny Machado, and before he got hurt, Jonathan Scope. You see these guys watching pitches, see these guys making selections of balls they can hit, even if they're not strikes, they're hittable balls. And tonight we didn't get that so much. So that was my low light of the game. I would be happy to not see any more of that. Let's go to the offense. I think this is mostly, again, going to be your topic. What did you see from the Mets offensively tonight?
Well, as I said, they started off the fourth. Just really, unfortunately, it was just one inning of offense, but it was good enough to get the job done. And started off with Duda hitting a line drive over Adam Jones's head, which is an oddity in itself. But he hit that ball hard. And then the rookie Plawecki, who's up for Travis Darno while he recovers from a broken bone in his hand, with a big 2-run double to get the score to 3-0, which, as it turns out, the Mets needed. So good to see this kid, another kid that was brought up, and he struggled a little bit. He struggled, and now he seems to be warming up again. So all good signs offensively for us tonight.
Now, this is the first, obviously, that we've hit just one more game out of them in this shortened series before we, cross the city there to face the Yankees. Do you expect it to be another low-scoring affair from the Mets tomorrow?
I got to tell you, most of their games are low-scoring affairs. They have been playing a lot of one-run games. They lost 2 games to the Nationals over the weekend, 1-0. Couldn't muster any offense in those games. So, yeah, I think it'll be a close game. And now that I said that, watch, they'll go get somebody will get hot and hit 8 runs in. But I do expect it. Jacob deGrom is pitching tomorrow against Ubaldo Jimenez. And deGrom has struggled, so I'm looking for a good pitching performance from him. He's home, pitches well at home, and I'm looking for him to keep the ball in the ballpark. And so I think it'll be a good pitching performance on both sides. So I think it'll be another low-scoring affair.
Well, I'm looking for good things from deGrom again next time in the order. Next time he comes out. Offensively from the Orioles, we talked about Manny Machado's home run very briefly. It's nice to see Manny Machado starting to hit with some authority. Everyone who's watched him play has said, boy, if he just fills out a little bit, some of those doubles will turn into home runs, and won't he really be a player? I hope that's what we're seeing here. He's done a really good job of hitting that ball into the left center gap. We've seen it a couple times at home during the attendance list game, and here in Citi Field, it was basically an identical swing. Also, we talked about Chris Davis's mammoth opposite field home run in the ninth inning, that too little, too late. But also something I didn't want to have lost. Davis hit against the shift in this game with runners on base, which is something that is really pivotal for the Orioles. He was solved. He was a problem that was solved by opposing pitchers and opposing defenses last year. And he was BABIP'd out. He hit directly into that shift, and if he is able to hit into that and through that shift, it'll be good things, because it won't be, all or nothing with Chris Davis. So that was something very positive that I took from the game. But offensively, very little else going on for the Orioles. But there are kind of a few. There's some nice things to talk about defensively here. I want to start with the catch that Lagares made there in left center field in the top of the 5th inning, in which he may have hurt himself and drew some attention from the trainer. Tell me a little bit about that catch.
Well, it was a backhand drive to left center field, as you said, and he backhanded it and kind of, I wouldn't say really collided, more brushed up with Michael Kadaya, the left fielder. I think he's going to be fine. I don't think it was anything. I hope it's not anything, because he's really probably up there as one of the best center fielders in the National League, if not one of the best in baseball. You guys have probably the best in baseball right now in center field. He's very good, Adam Jones. But it's kind of ho-hum with us here, because we see him do this so often, and it's exciting. Sometimes you don't think he's going to get there, and he gets there. I noticed with Adam Jones, I don't want to use the word smoother, but it's hard to describe. It may be less effortless, where sometimes Lagares looks like he's getting there, and then some other times he'll just glide back, and it's like it's nothing. But yeah, it was a good catch, and I think he'll be okay.
I wonder if the development there is route running. I wonder if a better awareness of the ballpark. Not to say that he's deficient, but as he becomes a veteran, I wonder if he'll take better angles to the ball and allow that athleticism to not bail him out with a dazzling play, but as you say, to smooth out a little bit and make it look a little more yawn. I caught the ball.
Well, he runs pretty decent routes. I think what happens sometimes is he plays shallow like Adam Jones does. And I think sometimes it just looks when he's got to go back on a ball, it sometimes look like it's he's not going to get there, and lo and behold, he gets there. But it is exciting, and of course, as I said, you guys are used to that. You know what good center field play in is. You have to be strong up the middle. Unfortunately, the infield part of that for the Mets is weak, but the outfield is certainly is strong right up the middle with Lagares. He's a joy to watch on a daily basis.
Well, let's talk about the best athlete on your club tonight, and let's talk about a play that took place in the fourth inning, in which Bartolo Colon pounced off the mound to make a play against Delman Young. That was something else.
I'm laughing, but the guy is unbelievable. He is very agile for his size. He did it a couple of weeks ago. I forget who it was now. Was it? He picked up off a guy at second base and then ran after him and actually tagged him and caught him. So he's a very good fielder. He's very agile for his size. And again, they were saying on a broadcast here that you could tell how a veteran, because he made the play and he set himself and made the throw. He knew who was running. He knew he couldn't go to third base. You guys had first and second at the time, and it was a ball to the left, to his right, off the mound on the third base side. And, of course, Murphy had to come in because he didn't know Colon was going to get there. But Colon got it, was able to throw out Delman Young at first, and really, he struck out Joseph after that, and I think struck out the next batter to get out of the he got out of the inning anyways. Whether it was two strikeouts and that play he made with runners on second, third, got out of the jam, and that was really a big play for him to make.
Yeah, I mean, we were poking fun a little bit, but you got to understand. I mean, the guy is a little on the larger side and 41 years old, but he also just manhandled the Baltimore Orioles, which is a good offensive club. He had his way with them. He was picking his spots, and he got it there every time. Strike one was his best pitch, and he usually followed it up with strikes 2 and 3. So, again, I was poking fun, but it's all humble pie from here. Bartolo Colon had himself an evening. Defensively for the Orioles, something that I wanted to talk about was Jimmy Paredes. Let's put it this way. Jimmy Paredes' best defensive position is designated hitter. He is a guy who he doesn't have a position in the field, and when he does, it's always a show. But he was a passable second baseman this evening. I'm not going to say that he's an all-star by any stretch of the imagination, but he made 2 plays that I was really interested in. He made a turn at second to turn a double play on a play that everybody in Baltimore, I'm sure, held their breath through. And then he also made a play, making a strong throw, 4-3, as he charged in to catch a ball on that right side of the infield. So Jimmy Paredes, again, the second base situation is in flux, with Jonathan Scope being injured, with the backup Ryan Flaherty being injured, with Steve Pearce, who had been pressed into service as a second baseman, coming down with a stomach bug. So Paredes defensively had we'll call it a rare good game.
He made the routine plays. As you said, he turned a nice double play. So he had a good evening tonight. Not so good at the plate, but that's okay as far as I'm concerned. But it was I know we won the game. The Mets, not me, but the Mets won the game. But it was a well played game. It was a crisp game. It wasn't a sloppy game with errors all over the place. The pitching performances were decent by Norris. I thought he pitched a good game. Colon was just unbelievable, and there's a reason why he's 5-1. He's just gotten off to a terrific start and had great control.
Yeah, he certainly made a very good offensive look silly. You talked about Bud Norris not looking awful, and I think I agree with that assessment. He was okay tonight, and frankly, with as awful as he's been, I'll take okay from Bud Norris. It'll be interesting to see how he bounces back in his next start. But again, what are you going to do? You give up 3 runs. The offense didn't score anything to speak of until, again, too little, too late. This is just one of those things that happens in baseball sometimes. And as you said, it was a good game.
Yeah, it was a
Um,
very good game.
this is the portion of the show in which we usually do our bottom line takeaway from the game. Your general overall sense of what happened and why it matters. I'm going to go ahead and take a stab. It'll be interesting to see what happens tomorrow because the Orioles have been through a pretty good stretch. I think it was 5 of 6 that they had won before this game, and the bats were just absolutely monsters. They had been pounding runs, especially through the game in which they threw up 18 on the Red Sox. They scored 8 runs against the White Sox in that one game from that series. So it'll be interesting to see whether they're going to show back up tomorrow or whether this is the beginning of a cooling period. The other thing is that, the starting pitching had been extremely good. Starting pitching had been a real problem for this team. The ERA, the starting staff was astronomical. And then, six straight quality starts. I think this is another textbook quality start, so maybe it's 7, even though loss. But those two things will work in tandem. So, it'll be interesting to see what happens tomorrow, whether or not that trend continues. Because again, sometimes you lose well-played ball games, which is what I think happened tonight. As long as they're still playing good ball games and not the sloppy ones that you mentioned, which we had seen a little bit of in early 2015. As long as we don't start slipping back into that, I think I don't have any complaints in what happened in Citi Field tonight. What about from your side? What is your bottom line takeaway from this game?
Well, I'll be curious to see. As I told you, I'm going to the game tomorrow night, so I'll be curious to see if the bats can continue. They seem to have woken up a little bit tonight, not a lot, so I'd like to see more of that. The pitching, starting pitching, continues to be outstanding. The bullpen, for the most part, has been very good, and that's what I've taken away from that. That at least continues on, and they had a day off yesterday, so they were able to muster a little bit of offense tonight, and that's all you really need if you can get a good pitching performance like that. 2-3 runs, that's all you need, and see if they can continue to do that to support, because it was horrible losing 2 games 1-0, and like you said with the strikeouts earlier, they struck out 10 times in one game, I think, against Washington. So those things are what I'm going to take away from it. Pitching continues to be strong, and offense woke up a little bit after a little 10-game doldrums. So we'll see if that continues.
All right, fair enough. Let's talk very briefly about tomorrow, and then we'll let you get out of here. Although I do have some homework before we wrap up for you. Let's talk about tomorrow. We've got Ubaldo Jimenez facing, as you mentioned, Jacob deGrom. Give me a little scouting report on Jacob deGrom. I'm not as familiar with that pitcher as some of the other ones in your staff.
Jacob deGrom is get it up to the mid 90s to high 90s. He's got a good fastball, but he's also a control pitcher, and if he keeps it down, he's very tough to hit. He's got a lot of movement on his pitches, so if he's on, he'll be tough to hit. Rookie of the year last year. He's got the whole hair thing going there. It's a big marketing thing now, but good, young, solid pitcher. But again, lots of movement on the pitches. If he's got control, and he's been pretty well. I mean, over the course of last year and this season so far, the last 2 starts he struggled a little bit, but if he's on with good control, he'll be very tough to hit.
All right, fair enough. On the other side, you've got Ubaldo Jimenez, who is actually starting to look like something closer to what the Orioles hoped that they were getting when they signed him for a 4-year, $50 million contract. He was a waste of roster space last year. I mean, let's be honest, he was awful. This year, he's been quite good. He's calmed down his mechanics. He has stopped trying to throw so hard, and I think come to terms with what he is velocity wise, and he is hitting his spots in the strike zone. He's moving within the strike zone, and he's got that fastball command. He can be a very difficult pitcher to deal with this season, which is delightful to see. He's not going to blow it past you anymore. He's got 91 tops at this point, but he makes that 88 to 91 velocity work with split fastball with the fastball, and then the breaking pitches. He's actually working in the strike zone and managed to miss some bats, which is the big difference between last year and this year. I'll be excited to see Ubaldo Jimenez pitch. It's kind of weird. After last year, he was the guy that we rooted for hitting more potholes in the parking lot to land him on the DL, and now it's a joy to watch him pitch. So again, that's the pitchers matchup for tomorrow. Gary, I have some homework for you. All right, so you're going to the ballpark to watch your Mets. I hope you see a great game one way or the other. I'm curious to get your impressions on the Oriole fans. I saw a lot of orange in the ballpark, and not just because it's one of your secondary colors there for the Mets. I saw a lot of Oriole fans in the stands, and I'm curious. Let me give you a little history. The Orioles were terrible for a really long time, and when I say terrible, I mean like weapons-grade terrible. And we saw a lot of opposing fans in Camden Yards for a long time, particularly from the crosstown rivals there, the New York Yankees and the Boston Red Sox. And one of our biggest concerns as a fan base that those guys are jerks, all of them. Very unpleasant experiences in our home ballpark with an invasion of opposing fans. I'm curious, Gary, as to how the behavior of the Baltimore fans or the transplant Baltimoreans that are now New Yorkers are in opposing ballparks. So take in the game, enjoy it, but also give me a report. Go ahead and tweet it at us. You can also send me an email, and I'll be sure to share it with our listeners. I'm curious to see how Birdland represents in New York this weekend. So don't hold back. Grade fairly.
I'm sure it'll be well. You're going to have an invasion when the Mets come down to Camden Yards. I believe the 7-line army is going down there for one of their outings, but they're a good bunch of people, and I hope there's no trouble at all. But I hate when you hear trouble. You should be able to go to an opposing ballpark and wear your colors and just have some fun, have some good-natured kidding back and forth, but enjoy it. It shouldn't have to lead to fist fights. Unfortunately, that stuff happens, but it really shouldn't. And I always encourage people to go and I say, just think of it this way. If they're coming to your home ballpark, they're putting money into your team. So in a strange way, they're coming to see their team, but they're helping your team financially, and hopefully that maybe you'll get that extra player to put you over the top, because those 100 Baltimore fans came and sat there and paid good money. So that's what I think about it.
Well, Gary, again, I appreciate you jumping on with me tonight to talk about the Mets. It's always good to get somebody who actually knows what they're talking about the other team, rather than just hearing unintelligent discussion and stereotypes and guesses. Love the podcast. Please tell us all about Mets Musings and where we can go if we're looking to get some behind enemy lines reviews and scouting on the Mets.
Well, as you say, it's called Mets Musings, and it's available on baseballtalkradio.com, as you'll find Bird's Eye View podcast is. And it's also at metsmusings.com, which is my main site, and the podcast is right there. And I also do another podcast on Sunday evenings live on a Google Hangout, and that's called MLB This Week, and I'm a co-host of that with Rich Baxter of Phillies Talk, another fine podcast. And we try to cover the stories that you don't often see all over the place. Some you do, but some little offbeat stories we look for and try to add them in, and that's every Sunday night. And the Mets Musings is usually posted every Thursday evening. So I'm going to have a great guest this week. So if anybody's interested in finding out about the Mets, I'm going to have a Mets beat writer from the New York Daily News. She'll be on with me Thursday evening. So it'll be up there sometime Thursday evening. So if you're interested in that and anything with the Mets, check it out, metsmusings.com. And thanks so much for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you were talking about baseball fans going to other teams. I think people who root for their own team at heart are baseball fans, and that's what we love. We love people who are passionate about their own teams, and you're definitely a good one, Gareth. So thanks for doing this. And that's going to do it for Postgame Live on Channel BSR. Rough one for the Orioles, 3-2 loss, but hey, lots to come back to tomorrow. We'll be back on Postgame Live here on Thursday. Make sure you check us out, BaltimoreSportsReport.com/live. Again, Birds lose 3-2. Gary Mack, thanks very much. Have a good one.